Hi there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael. So you're probably wondering what I'm doing here on the floor. And the reason I am here is because I want to talk today about my unwieldy and uncaring TBR cart that I keep next to my bed, that I've filled with books and barely read any of them, and I want to clean this out and make it more useful. So for those, the way I sort of work my library is I've got approximately probably 800 books to read, and I read about 40 to 50 books a year. So I usually pick out about 30 books that I put into this cart that I keep next to my bed, and it's sort of the books that I'm most excited to read. So this year, I only read about 25 books. Terrible year for reading. So I figured this is to blame. So I'm going to take this, clean it out, and refill it with titles that I'm really excited about, and hopefully accomplish better goals this year. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is clear this out. Stuff that shouldn't be here. So, first thing I see, wood filler. Why is there wood filler in my TBR cart? I don't know. So I'll put that aside, take that downstairs later. Here's a bunch of YA books that I pulled out for Old School April. 3 Nightmare Club books, Dream Date by Sinclair Smith, and a Buffy the Vampire Slayer novelization. So I had plans to do this in April. I did not participate. So these books are going to go back into the select pile for later. Let's see. Got a hard drive. Got a tablet. I've got a resume. Concrete lifting flyer. Pay stub. Checkbook. How to deal with pet grief. I'll keep that around. I have a copy of Papers Back from Hell that I got last year. So this was a second copy. More on this later. What else is in here? Letters from people, stickers, Parks Canada stickers. Emergency thermal blanket if I case I get cold in my own house. What else we got? More cables. A little paw print. This was for when Daisy passed last year. They gave us her paw print in sand. So that's very nice. I keep that there for a reason, so I can see that when I want to. Some random elastic cord that broke off something. Another USB, a mystery USB. A tent peg. Okay. So as you can see, this is full of stuff that I don't need. Oh, nice sticker. This holds all my bookmarks. Mainly the ones that I've gotten from either Raven's End Books. They give me a book every time I buy a book. Or all of my what's it called? Nightworms. When I had a subscription to Nightworms, they gave me a bunch of really cool bookmarks with the packages, so I keep those all there. Okay, so just going to clear out these books. There are a couple titles here that I am definitely going to put back in that I actually am really excited to read. So, this one will probably be over the course of the year or so. This is Folklore, Myths, and Legends of Britain. This I gave as a gift to myself last year. This is a collection of Myths and Legends of Britain. Sort of a precursor to the Hellbore series, magazine series. So this is sort of a classic of the Reader's Digest releases, so I'm going to keep this one around there, because I do like reading things in there. Turbo Kid comic book I've read already. I don't know if you've ever seen Turbo Kid, but they put out several comic books. This is one that came out with the video game release that came out this past year. Okay, so these two are going to stay because I do want to read these this year. Zoe is too drunk for this dystopia, and I'm starting to worry about this Black Box of Doom, both by Jason Pargin. This is the writer who did the John Dies at the End series. So these were both advanced readers copies that I did not get to, unfortunately. But I am excited to read those again. One of these is going to stay in. This is Adam Schultz. He is a Canadian author who writes about canoeing trips and mysteries. These ones, he did a 2,000-mile canoe trip, and this one's investigating a guy who disappeared. So both of these are really excited to read these, so these are probably going to stay in there as well. Stuart Gordon memoir. I'm going to have to put this one on hold. Elvira memoir. Yeah. Oh, Maria Bamford. I was really excited to read this when this came out, but I did not get to it. I love Maria Bamford. Well, let's white it out. That's very bright. There we go. Maria Bamford. She's nuts. And this is her book. I'll probably keep this one because I want to read this one. Boys in the Valley, Philip Fracassi. I'll put that in the maybe pile. What's these? The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is what I'd like to read. Dead Astronauts by Jeff Vandermeer. This one's going to go back into the TBR shelves. Colin Fletcher, another adventure writer. This one is his last book that I have not read. So I'm sort of saving this for a special occasion for some reason. I'd like to read this one. Gathering Moss by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is a book about mosses. She wrote another fantastic book called Braiding Sweetgrass. I'd like to give this one a shot if I can. But I got to be in kind of a sciencey mood for this, so we'll see. And this is How You Lose the Time War, which is a romance time travel story. So this one piqued my interest because I like the birds on the cover and I like the sort of the premise, so we'll see if this stays or not. Alright, here's some B-roll of the TBR books I've got in the house. So that was my one shelf I've got in the bedroom. There's another shelf in the hallway. And then this is the shelves in the library. So those are all 80s horror, 70s horror paperbacks, plus some new stuff at the top. Bunch of titles there. I've gone over those in previous book hauls, but yeah, lots and stuff there. And then there's this bookshelf, which is holding most of it. And as you can see, there's stuff in front of other stuff. Way too many books. Obviously, I have a book hoarding problem, but it's one that I enjoy, so that's okay. Better than drugs, right? But yeah, that's a lot of books. Okay, so I've got it cleaned out. I do have a few more titles that are going to be going back in for sure. So this past year, I did not read as much of books that I love, that I like style of books. So I'm definitely putting these all back in. This is from the Paperbacks from Hell series that is put out by Valancourt Books. I've got 6 titles. These 5, and an Elizabeth Eggstrom book. So these are going to be going back in. And then for modern writers, I've been wanting to read this one for a while, which is C.V. Hunt's Ritualistic Human Sacrifice. Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Bright. And Kink by Kathy Koja. So these are all going to be going back into the TBR. So the cart's clean. I've put in the titles that I've already kind of said I'll mention that already that I want to put back in there. Ones I'm going to add are part of my goals. So I really enjoy 70s, 80s, and 90s horror, like adult horror. I barely touched that stuff this year. So, I've got a few titles picked out that I want to get to. So, firstly, I really want to read Necroscope by Brian Lumley. This has a fantastic cover. The whole series has fantastic covers. I've been wanting to read this for a while now. I think it's vampires, so I want to read that. This one came onto my list last year because I believe Alex at the Bookubus had read this and said it was good. This is Son of the Endless Night by John Ferris. And it's got some nice, creepy step-back art for that. Again, I think this is vampires as well. This one, just the title's been on my brain for, years and years. A Choir of Ill Children by Tom Piccirilli. I have not read any of his work, so that's something that I'm looking forward to reading some new author. My Del Abyss books. I've got 6 that I haven't read. I'd like to get these into the rotation, so these are going into the cart as well. Del Abyss was a fantastic horror line from the late 80s, early 90s. Sort of post-80s horror when they started getting into like almost exclusively medical thrillers. They wanted to make a sort of a comeback into that. And that was Poppy Z. Bright, Kathy Koja were sort of the forerunners of that that line of books. So everything so far from there has been great. So I want to read that. Now here's an author I have not read any of his work. I find 6 of his books on my shelf. Ramsey Campbell. So I've got The Influence. I've got The Parasite. I've got The Face That Must Die, which is a great title. Cold Print. Midnight Sun. And looks like a collection of stories that scared him. So I think this is a bunch of different authors that Ramsey Campbell just collected. I don't know where to start with this guy out of these titles. So I'll put this on the Instagram, or if you want to comment below, which of these 5 titles you think I should pick one to go into my TBR this year. Because I don't know where to start. And looking at that, I'm like, maybe there's a real good hit in here. Maybe some are terrible. Who knows? But let me know if you've read Ramsey Campbell. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, so I got a few more titles pulled out that I'm going to try to read this year. I've got the X-Pearl Maxine Tim Wagoner novelizations of the X series. I loved all these. Maxine, fantastic. Pearl, phenomenal. Probably the best of the 3. And then X, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm looking to try to get these wiggled into some space sometime this year. And then I also want to continue with some authors that I know I love and that I want to continue their series or books by them. Adrienne Marie Brown, Maroons. This is the sequel to Grievers. This is a dystopian sci-fi set in the future where a disease that affects a certain group of people in Detroit, mainly the black community, are all sort of frozen, and then they die. And we're kind of left following this girl who's sort of picking up the pieces of her neighborhood. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with what Maroons references, but during slavery days, it was these towns that were black-owned towns that were sort of hidden away that people can go to. So yeah, this is part of the Black Dawn series by AK Press, so it's sort of politically charged, but really good so far from the last book. I've been trying to get to this one for maybe a decade. Clive Barker's The Damnation Game. So I have not read this yet, and I am very much looking forward to reading it. I love Clive Barker. I've got like 30 of his books up there. Maybe I'll do a tour of my Clive Barker shelf sometime. But yeah, this is one I've not read yet, so I'm looking forward to trying to get this one this year. Prisoners of Power by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. This is a sci-fi author pair, two brothers. They were writing sci-fi in the height of Soviet Russia, and the Soviet USSR pretty much censoring everything, so they hid sci-fi stories and wrote them all. These guys wrote the fantastic Roadside Picnic, about an alien visitation to Earth, where the aliens arrive and pretty much just leave a bunch of junk and don't bother even making first contact with us because we're useless, which I really enjoyed. Joe Haldeman. So I read his book, The Forever War, and The Accidental Time Traveler, and a couple other ones. But I'm enjoying his work, so this is another one, Tool of the Trade. This one, I'm not quite sure what this one's about. It's usually got some sort of political thriller, but mixed in with sci-fi, which is always kind of interesting. Harlan Ellison collection, Approaching Oblivion, Road Signs on the Treadmill Towards Tomorrow. I like the artwork on this one. Harlan Ellison, I've not read any of his stuff yet, but I know he is quite a character. In fact, just looking at the back here, there's a picture of him in his library, looking dapper. But it actually says, this is the author, Harlan Ellison, sitting in his office wearing a tacky red velvet bathrobe. He is posed in such a way that you cannot see the rips and tears in the robe. The rips and tears in Mr. Ellison's soul, however, are plainly evident in the stories in this book. So, he's a character already. Looking forward to reading that. Let me know if you read any Harlan Ellison. I'd like to know about that. And then this was actually a recent inquiry. There's the Hellbore magazine, which is a fantastic occult magazine sort of focused on British folklore, British occultism, and the history of that, paganism in Britain. They just put out this new book called Tales of Occult Britain. A very nice hardcover little book, but it's got a collection of authors. So they've got Nina Antonia, it's got Ramsey Campbell, so I guess someone will give me an answer on that. Ramsey Campbell. Steve Duffy, Helen Grant, Verity Holloway, Ian Murphy, Reggie Oliver, Steve Towson, Ali Wilkes. So I've not read any of these authors, but this is a book of short stories that's kind of tied into their Hellbore did a guide to occult Britain last year. So we got my shelves over there. But yeah, they did a guide to occult Britain last year, which was sort of like a regional tourist guide of all the creepy places and standing stones, and a wonderful, wonderful book. I read that last year, so now if I ever go to Britain, I can go visit these places. I'll take that book with me for sure. But yeah, this is sort of a short story collection that is tied in with that. So yeah, looking forward to reading that. Okay, so that is 37 books loaded in here now. So this will hopefully be what I'm reading this year coming up, at least from what I'd like to read. Obviously, there's room for growing. I'll add a Ramsey Campbell once I get some votes on that. But other than that, it's like, yeah, I try to keep this sort of rolling. Rolling. So if things can come and go as they need to be. But these are books that I would love to read today. And we'll see if there's, maybe I should do this maybe quarterly, go through it and see if there's something that new that comes in. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, my goal is 80s horror, 90s horror, vintage sci-fi, vintage horror, and then throw a Maria Bamford book in there to keep me sane. Keep me sane. Okay, so that's it for today. You guys have a good rest of your week. Have yourself a happy holidays. If you're watching this at Christmas, this is being filmed on Christmas Eve day. So yeah, talk to you guys later. Have a good holidays, and see you in the new year.